Welcome to Is It Beer Yet video edition. I am Matt and we're continuing our 13 beers for Halloween from neozaz.com with beer number 6, Patient Zero Pale. So by the name you can guess the style is a pale ale. The name comes from the second announced house for Halloween Horror Nights of the whole event, and it happened to be an original house. If you're not familiar with Halloween Horror Nights, these days it's roughly, depending on the year, half the houses are licensed IPs, like Stranger Things and Poltergeist, for instance. This year, the other half, again, roughly, depending on the year, is original content. Very excited that they had announced an original content house as their second big announcement of the year, so I wanted to make a beer for it. I also knew I wanted to make a pale ale again, because pale ales are, I don't know, I was going to say my kryptonite? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. The styles I cannot seem to get a lock on. So I knew I was going to be doing, I think maybe at the time when I decided to do this beer, I knew I was doing at least 10, 13, even more opportunity to do styles. I knew from the get-go I was going to do a pale ale and try to hit that style. The trouble I usually have with it is I add too many malts in the range of the specialty malts and too little hops. I tend to hold myself back on the hops because I don't want it to kind of breach past being a pale ale and become an IPA. And the malts, I try to make a base that I like, and my tastes tend to lean towards amber ales when I'm thinking malt, so I overdo it on both. So I took a bit of a George Costanza logic on this, the character from Seinfeld. I didn't necessarily do the exact opposite of what I thought I should do, but I looked at what I did, and then I very uncomfortably either removed or added things to it to kind of go against my, I was going to say my better judgment, but I'm not getting the results I want, against my initial judgment, let's say that. So, let's find out exactly what is in this and where I took that altered George Costanza logic. So this time, we're going to be looking at pictures again, but we'll take a look here of what we got for this brew. So we're starting off with the base malts. This is not where I usually mess up the flavor because the base malts are pretty, well, not innocuous, but they're a base malt. That's why they're called that. So it's 2 pounds and 2.2 ounces of 2-row pale malt. Again, we're going to have some real specific numbers here because I did a 5-gallon recipe and then scaled it down, or I let the software scale it down to 1 gallon because if I end up liking this a lot, I may have a pale ale recipe. So that's always the hopes in these 5-gallon recipes that are scaled down. Then we get into the specialty malts, and it's 3.2 ounces of Crystal 80L malt, which is a pretty strong crystal malt, a very caramel. That's the other name for it too, depending on what supplier you're getting from. Caramel malt. And my initial thought was to kind of almost round that 2.5 pounds, or 2 pounds and 2 ounces up to 2.5 pounds, which would be 2 pounds 8 ounces, which means I was looking at almost 6 ounces of 80 when I put this in, and you see I've now scaled that down to 3.2. Well, whatever the numbers were for the 5 gallons. You get the premise, I'm sure. Then 0.6 ounces of Carapils, not a flavor malt, more of a, not quite an adjunct, but it's for, I use it for head retention because I know I've had good results when I'm specifically using it for that, but that's not its only purpose. But in this case, that's what I was hoping. So then we did the mash, again, same amount of water. We've been using 2 3/4 gallons of water, and then rested at 152 degrees for 60 minutes, and then I measured out the hops. And the hops, 0.2 ounces of Cascade hops at 60 minutes. That is mostly for bittering at the 60-minute mark. Then 0.3 ounces of Cascade hops at 10 minutes. I'm saying 2 because looking at this recipe, I think I would do 2 if I was making a 1-gallon recipe, which means this was much lower on the 5-gallon. And then I increased it. Again, I'm always short on hops, so I increased it, and I'm actually a little uncomfortable looking at that number because, again, against my initial thoughts. Then added 0.25 ounces of Cascade again, and 0.10 or 0.10 ounces of Galaxy hops at 5 minutes together. Again, I'm looking at that a little uneasy for a pale ale, thinking that's way too much. That's going to be close to IPA, but again, going against my initial ideas here. And then finally 0.2 ounces of Cascade at flame out. That's a number I'm comfortable with. That's when I probably went, okay, that's where I'm going to draw the line. I need to be comfortable making this. It might bite me in you know what in the end. We'll find out. But I just, the malts there was one, obviously, that I talked about. The hops were the ones that I was like really, I don't know, I hope I'm doing the right thing. So then Vorloffed about a gallon of the sweet wort to clear it up a little bit, transferred 2 gallons and 2 cups of sweet wort in the boil kettle, and it was raining outside again, so I had to do the boil inside, and that's what I did. I brought it up to a boil. I held it for a couple of minutes before starting the 60-minute timer to make sure since it's a slower start on the electric, I wanted to make sure the roll got really, really rolling and things were doing what they should be doing chemically. So I guess maybe it's like a 65-minute boil officially in the end, but I started a 60-minute timer for the hop drops, which we'll see here. That's the first drop of Cascade, then the second drop of Cascade 50 minutes later, then the combo pack of Cascade and Galaxy, and then the last hops of Cascades, and that's flame out, as you can see by my hand turning off the stove. So then I chilled it to about 68 degrees and then pitched 3.3 grams of US-05 yeast. And then I let it ferment for 5 days. And I have some videos here now for this second part. After the 5 days of fermentation, that's the total fermentation. After 5 days of that fermentation, I then measured out 0.30 ounces of Galaxy hops and then added them directly to the beer, as you see, for dry hopping. So after that, I bottled with Cooper carbonation drops, and I actually put a note here because I talked about those before, but I didn't explain what they were other than little drops that kind of look like the shape of cough drops of lozenges of cough drops. And that's exactly what they look like, and what they are they're compressed sugar, and it's a combination of 27% glucose, which is typically your typical table white sugar, and 73% dextrose, which is corn sugar, which is usually my preferred bottling sugar. But these are super convenient because they're measured for 12-ounce bottles. You drop one in, you make sure your hands are sanitized, of course, drop one in, then put the beer in. When you're in tight time constraints like I was on this brew, which was at night, it saved a reasonable or a measurable amount of time. So I was happy to use them, and I've actually had really good results with them. I see a majority of people have good results with them, but I see that people that don't have good results with them, or that don't experience good results with them, are very vocal and very disappointed by them. So far, so good. Knock on wood. I've been good with Cooper's carbonation drops. And that's it for the brew. Now we are about ready to get to tasting, and of course, with tasting comes the bottle label. So let's take a look at this. This design has got a couple things going on here, and it didn't quite come out. I think they're gonna come out better on the display I'm showing on the screen here. Let me cut back to the camera and show you what I'm talking about, how I didn't think some things came out here, just for what I'm going to be talking about. I'm hoping that's coming out. I cannot see what I'm pointing at, but if you saw that, you saw it says Patient Zero Pale in white. Then behind that, that is a gas mask, and the idea of this story is some kind of plague in Paris in the 1980s, and there's a zombie outbreak, and a gas mask seems like something that you would wear. In fact, there may have even been a gas mask in the promo video for this house. That might be where the idea came from. Behind that, a biohazard emblem, although this one's made of angled lines rather than curved lines. Now, the reason I held the camera up there, the thing that gets lost in the printout, as opposed to what you might be seeing on the screen, is that gas mask gets lost. So that didn't quite come out like I wanted to, but it's fine. But one benefit, and let me show you this again. So take a look. I'm holding it at an angle so you can see the lines. That's from my old printer, not printing very well, but I actually end up really liking it because the idea of this is the 80s. The whole Halloween Horror Nights I should say the underlying theme is the 80s, and a lot of their promo material had shown old video or television clips, like VCR clips, and I think, I'll show it again, and I'm saying it kind of looks like a scan line from a TV, so I didn't mean to do that, but I actually like how that looks better. So all I need to really do is fix that gas mask, and then I have to, if I get a new printer, I have to purposely put those lines in. Ooh, so I forgot about that. That might make it a little more difficult. 5.5 ABV, that is by calculation. I did not use a hydrometer on this, so that is what the software says it should be. Again, that could be up or down just a little bit. It's usually fairly accurate. And then on the left side of the label, it says something in French. Actually, it says, and I'll read the next line, that means random French words in French. And I typed that into Google Translate to get that. Never thought about actually finding out how to pronounce that for this video until I read it now. I have no idea how to say that, but I hope the joke comes across without me being able to speak a lick of French. I'll move on. Dead Exposure Patient Zero takes place in Paris in the 1980s. Apart from making a Kronenbourg 1964 clone, we didn't know what to make this style, or what style to make this beer, so we made a pale ale and threw some random French words on the label. Then my serving suggestion is put in glass and lock the doors. Of course, the zombies. That's pretty obvious, I think. On the other side of the label, it says a classic, solid, simple pale ale with big pale malt base and a touch of caramel malt to round things out. Then a steady addition of Cascade hops from beginning to end of the boil with a generous Admiral hop dry hop before bottling. And with that, I just realized I didn't update the word on this label. I was going to use Admiral hops as a dry hop. I haven't used them before, and I liked the description and the flavor and aroma profile I read about them, but then saw in the end, when I was done all my recipes, it was the only time I was using Admiral hops, and I had plenty of other hops that were in the family of that taste and aroma range that I would have plenty of left over for. So no sense in buying a pack of hops that I was only going to use just a little bit for. I might use some later, but I might not. I already was having leftover hops Galaxy, for instance. Those are the ones I used. I went ahead and used that instead to be a little cost conscious on this project. All right, time to see what we have here. Curious, real curious to see what going against my better nature. Well, I know my initial thoughts on a pale ale are not right, so let's see if I'm making any progress. So let's check for a hiss. We got a little one. Oh, okay. It wanted to hiss more, I think, because we got quite a bit of carbonation coming right off the neck of the bottle there. So let's give it a pour. Carbonation looks good. Head looks good. Color looks... that's good. I'm laughing because it seems no matter what I do when it comes to a pale ale, and it's just pale ales. When I go to make a pale ale, I always get an amber color. Now, I don't think many people would call this an amber beer, but it is more of an amber color than I was shooting for. So I'm laughing again because it just seems I have this touch or this knack of overcoloring my pale ales. I'm gonna take a look in the light. It's actually even more obvious, but okay, that's... color is one thing. It's the aroma and taste that I really could never quite get a grasp of before. Let's see if I'm any closer now. So the aroma is definitely closer than what I've been doing. There's that distinctive hop smell that's absolutely citrusy. So that's the Galaxy. That's from the dry hop. That doesn't really surprise me. That is kind of what I was expecting and hoping for. I can't quite put my finger on what citrus it is because it's not orange, it's not grapefruit. It's not quite lime or lemon in that range. It's something else. And I know a description for Galaxy I've read more than once is passion fruit, and I don't know what passion fruit smells like. I've had like passion fruit juices and whatnot. I don't know what a natural passion fruit smells like. I'm not going to say that's what it is, but that might be what it is. But I think it might just be an all-round citrus smell. I know you probably are aware citrus has a distinct common, excuse me, kind of a common aroma, and I think that's what's coming through. Point is, I'm smelling that before anything else, which is usually doesn't happen in my pale ales. And if I really take a longer, oh, actually, backing away, I'm getting the malts, and I'm getting the little bit of sweet. That's definitely from the ADL, because there's nothing else in there that can be doing that. So aroma good, hoppy, definite citrus. More malts, the more I'm actually doing that, the more I'm pulling it away. But let's get to the taste, because that's always a big factor in my pales as well. I don't have a lot of malt, which is usually the biggest problem in my pales. I'm also not getting as much hop as I expected, but that is predominant flavor. I was, as I said, as I'm reading these numbers, I'm getting nervous. So I thought I'd be blown away by a hop. I'm not. It's actually quite smooth. It's a little more bitter than I expected for a Cascade 60-minute hop, but a good bitter, not a. That's the only thing I taste. There's just that nice bitter that's rolling through across my palate and carrying the other flavors with it. Let me give it another taste, see if I can get some more specific descriptors here. Mouthfeel is really is quite smooth. It's the carbonation is the only thing that's stinging me. The alcohol is not. There's virtually no sweet in here, which is, again, not common for me with my pales. So I'm happy. Even with that more red color than I expect, I might have gotten closer. I would want a more distinct hop flavor in this, but I am not unhappy with this. So let me see if I can get anything else out of it. I know my description, apart from bitter and hoppy, is not the biggest, painting the biggest word picture, but I'm not really put my finger on anything else. I'm really trying to find sweet for that caramel in there. If it's there, it's on the very end of the finish, and that might be, again, my imagination, or maybe like a preconceived idea because I put that ADL in there. It's actually a smooth bitter, but again, a pleasant bitter, little bit of hop, and best hoppiness I can say is earthy because it's not floral, it's not citrusy, and it's not piney. So I guess that kind of leaves earthy, like kind of just a, not plant-like, but that earthiness of the bitterness of the hop and a little bit of, I don't know what, the earthiness of it. I can't really pick another descriptor for it. I'm happy about that. I think I have a good base. I think this is something to build off of. I think I take a little caramel out and play around with some combination of hops again. So I am going to say, since I'm scoring these, this is number 6. What did we, let's see. So I know 1 was a bad one. So that's 4 out of 5 or 4 for 13. I'm going to stick with that. But this one is the one that is going to come back in a different form. This is the one that has the biggest room for the improvement. I think it might fall just a touch short in style because of the bitterness, and there's more I want to do to this. So this is not. I guess maybe that's a scoring. I think we just came up with the scoring plan. This recipe is not going to be repeated. It'll be altered. So there we go. Instead of saying I have a bad beer because it's not bad, I'm going to happily finish this, and I think my co-hosts are going to like it just as well. But the recipe's not going to stay. That's the scoring. Here we go. 1 episode shy of crossing that halfway point. We have the scoring. That's where the score comes from. So we're 4 out of 13 for recipe repeats, but no beers I poured down the drain. At 6 beers, I'm insanely happy with that. So I'm going to go enjoy this. And while I enjoy this, think about what I'm going to do next. Maybe there'll be a future episode on the follow-ups of those beers. But until then, let me say thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. What else goes with YouTube? I'm new to this too. Oh, hit the bell so you don't miss the posts that come in the future. Leave a comment, a question, or suggestion down below. I will respond as quick as I can. Tune in tomorrow for beer number 7. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that next episode. Thank you for watching Is It Beer Yet Video Edition. Is It Beer Yet is part of the neozaz.com Internet Entertainment Network. Visit neozaz.com for all our podcasts, including the original Is It Beer Yet home brewing audio series. Follow our social media pages for more on this project and all the beers and brewing we do at neozaz.com. We're Neozaz Podcasts on Facebook, Neozaz on Instagram, and Neozaz on Twitter. If you'd like to learn how you can help support the work we do and get access to exclusive content, check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/neozaz. And you can always send us an email at podcast@neozaz.com. Thanks again for watching.